Kaiju No.8 is an anime whose popularity confuses me. When the anime was first announced, I saw people do nothing but glaze it throughout, so I ended up buying into the hype. But halfway through the first season I realized this was just another shonen, lacking that special sauce that makes shonen so enjoyable. It was insanely tropey and failed to actually execute its ideas well enough to leave an impact. Don't get me wrong, I see the appeal. Giant monsters getting blown to chunks by crazy impractical weapons never gets old, and characters that fit into the classic shonen stereotypes we've come to be familiar with and find comfort in are a staple. But when you look at it further, Kaiju No.8 doesn't really do anything particularly new, giving us more shonen without fundamentally understanding what makes shonen so fun in the first place. And it's a shame because Kaiju No.8 had the great opportunity to actually say something, but fumbles the bag so hard it will not be surviving the years to come. And at the center of this fumble is its main character, Hibino Kafka, a 32-year-old man stuck in a dead-end job cleaning up kaiju guts for a living. It ain't much, but he's doing his part contributing to society. But Kafka isn't happy. This isn't the life he wanted for himself. Ever since he was a kid, he longed to join the Japanese Kaiju Defense Force to protect the people and make a name for himself, along with his childhood friend, Mina Ashiro. Unfortunately, he was never able to do such, failing the entrance exam over and over again. He was forced to eventually give up and settle on the next best thing as he watched the person he promised to stand by leave him behind, getting stronger and stronger, saving people. Kafka gave up on his dream and coasted through life, never wanting to try again. This, however, had left him jaded, stuck on his failures as a person. And honestly, this setup alone is fantastic. A shonen where the protagonist starts well past their youth, suffering many failures and even giving up on their shonen goal, on paper could make for some very revolutionary storytelling in the genre, as it presents the message that you're never too old to chase your dreams, something that gets reinforced in the first episode when Kafka meets Reno Ichikawa, a character who better embodies the Shonen MC archetype. It could have been a really heartfelt story that a lot of people, both old and young alike, could relate to, but unfortunately by the second episode it throws that away by giving Kafka powers and goes, "Never mind, you just weren't special enough." The most standout thing about Kafka is no doubt his age. Most shonen protagonists are in their teens, kids with endless potential and the power to shape their own destinies. Their stories are about becoming something. Naruto wants to be Hokage, Luffy wants to be the Pirate King, Deku wants to be the #1 hero. Kafka's story should have been about becoming again. The first episode really sells you in on this. It specifically talks to anyone who's ever thought, maybe my time has passed. It tells you that it's never too late and that persistence matters more than youth. You're bound to fail multiple times, but don't let those failures define you. But then it completely undermines this by turning Kafka into Kaiju No.8, a monster with the power to obliterate other monsters with a single punch. It almost feels foul the way they set him up as the embodiment of trying again, more so than other protagonists, but then switches up and gives him a cheat code. Now, to be fair, Kaiju No.8 goes out of its way to show that Kafka, despite acquiring his newfound power, doesn't try to rely on it to get into the defense force. He wants to make sure he does this as Kafka alone, and we see him stick to that throughout the entrance exam, only transforming when things went really south. And even after joining the defense force, we still see him training and studying just so he doesn't fall behind or over-rely on his kaiju powers. But the problem is, he's always put in a situation where he has to become Kaiju No.8 to punch the enemy hard enough they explode. So in the end, it doesn't really matter the kind of training he gets put through because it's ultimately meaningless. This is where Kafka stops feeling like a 30-year-old man and starts feeling like every other shonen protagonist. The only difference is, he can drink beer. You could easily overlook the whole age thing and just tune it out, but the anime likes to constantly remind you that he's 32 by throwing all the "he's old" jokes around, and that's the only thing that really comes from him being that old. There is no insight that comes with his age, there is no unique worldview he has, and he doesn't really impart any kind of wisdom onto his younger peers. All he does is act like a typical Genki shonen protagonist, and it makes it hard to take him seriously sometimes, forever locked in teasing the idea of maturity. And this is very evident when he joins the defense force. The story shifts into protecting his secret identity from the people who would kill him the moment they found out. It makes him extra self-conscious about his identity. You know, kinda like Spider-Man. But in the case of Peter Parker, his struggles come from juggling the guilt and responsibility of being Spider-Man, and hiding it from the people he's protecting. It's a lonely path for him, which is what makes him so endearing. Watching this boy go through so much and still set out to do it all again tomorrow is peak writing. Kafka, on the other hand, is just awkward. He hides his identity because he doesn't want to be hunted down. That's fair, but that's kinda like the only reason. And that story beat soon ends when he's forced to reveal it in a do or die situation in order to save everyone. This obviously leads to him being captured and inadvertently being treated as a weapon, but that too doesn't last long enough to have any real emotional weight. Kaiju No.8 throws a lot of themes around that never really gets to flesh things out, as they feel like an afterthought and only want to serve you the action as soon as possible. At some point, they reveal that the more Kafka transforms, the less he becomes human, and if this keeps going, he will eventually lose his humanity. This could have been a great opportunity to expand on the themes the story initially presented: the internal struggle of losing yourself to chase your dream. Would it be worth it in the end if you aren't the same anymore? These are some great questions to present, but sadly there really isn't any real struggle Kafka faces with this, as he quickly accepts that if it means that he gets to protect the people he cares about, he'll gladly lose his humanity and whatnot. Kaiju No.8 wants to be about perseverance. It wants to tell you that dreams don't expire, but its storytelling keeps contradicting itself. Kafka's age is supposed to make him stand out, but his powers make him just like everyone else. His struggles are supposed to make him relatable, but his constant Deus Ex Monster moments make him untouchable, stripping away a lot of the narrative tension that would come from the struggle. In my opinion, I think the series would have done better in sticking to its themes if, instead of Kafka getting the kaiju powers, it'd be Reno instead. The following change would have Reno become the one afraid of giving up on his dream of joining the defense force, with Kafka taking the role of a sort of mentor figure / older brother, all the while still struggling to keep up with the younger recruits because of his age. Kafka, though a bit jaded, would slowly begin to come around thanks to Reno's influence. He would begin to see himself in the young boy and do everything he can to make sure he and Reno both make it into the defense force. The two men would go on to motivate each other to strive to be the people they want to be. That way, we get to see all the shonen-y goodness of having Reno as a main character, while also getting to explore Kafka as we see a much more mature side to him as he comes to terms with his age and what he wants to do with his dreams. This would also make their dynamic way better in my opinion, as their current relationship doesn't feel all that engaging if I'm being honest. Also, I think it was absolutely foul making Kafka completely useless in human form. At its core, Kaiju No.8 is trapped by its own genre. It wants to deliver meaningful commentary on adulthood and failure, but also wants to appeal to the shonen crowd that expects flashy fights and cool designs. So it tries to have it both ways, a mature premise with an immature execution. And the result is this weird tonal dissonance that misunderstands shonen on a fundamental level and never tries to push past the confines of the medium to bring a unique story. Hibino no Kafka had the potential to be a genuinely inspiring protagonist, the kind that could bring an entirely new perspective on what a shonen protagonist could be. But unfortunately, he's bogged down by a story that is too afraid to take risks. His story is meant to be one that proves that dreams don't expire. Perseverance can go a long way when faced with odds that may seem unfair, but instead makes it that the only way to achieve your dreams is by being special. It plays it safe, hiding behind genre conventions and hype moments instead of trusting its own humanity. It tells you to keep chasing your dreams, but quietly implies that you will need a miracle to make them come true. And that's a damn shame. At the end of the day, Kaiju No.8 is just a decent anime that forgot the heart behind its own message. And that's it for this video. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you, and let me know what your thoughts on Kaiju No.8 are. Curious to see what perspectives you all have. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to stay up to date with more videos like this. I've also got a Patreon where you can support the channel for just $1 a month to get access to extra content and shoutouts at the end of upcoming videos. As always, this has been your very favorite slice of bread. Stay toasty.